Sometimes we would say, is this your night or my night? Because when it was Karen's night, it was different. A lot of talking. If there was any sex, it was at the end of a long road. Or is this going to be my night? Because my night was different than her night. Yay, my night. Sex is the only unique feature in marriage. Everything else we do in life, we do with somebody else except for the area of sex. It's very, very special. And the secret, I'm going to give you the secret of ultimate sexual fulfillment. Okay. It is a servant spirit. It's real simple. Is that a servant spirit is the secret of success in marriage. And a lot of times people think it's technique or it's marrying the right person, someone that you have the right chemistry with or whatever. Those things may be important, but it's not true. The most important issue to be fulfilled in marriage is a servant spirit, especially sexually. Let me kind of give you some successive truths here about the issue of a servant spirit and how important it is. The first is we can't meet our own sexual needs. The true fulfillment must take place in marriage with a person of the opposite sex. We can't meet our own needs. If we could meet our own needs, we wouldn't have gotten married. So when we get married, we are at our spouse's mercy to meet our needs. The second truth is once married, we cannot force a person to meet our needs, especially in the area of sex. It just simply requires their attitude, being willing to serve us and to meet our needs. There's a story that I tell about a heaven marriage and a hell marriage. And it's not biblically accurate, but I just like the story because it demonstrates the differences, that the attitudes make. In heaven and hell, this is a picture of heaven and hell. It's not biblically accurate. But there's a picture of heaven, and in heaven there's a banquet table, and God's there, the angels are there. And there's just this incredible banquet, food everywhere, just incredible food. But everyone has utensils taped, strapped on their hands that make it impossible for them to get food and bring it back to themselves. The utensils are too long. And so, but the food is fabulous, and they can get the food, they just can't get it back to their own mouths. Hell has the same scene. Now, God's not there, the angels aren't there, but in hell, there's just this phenomenal banquet table, incredible food, but everybody in hell has these utensils strapped to their hands that they can get the food, they just can't bring it back to themselves. Well, in heaven, they figure it out real quick, and they just figure they'll feed each other. And they just sit there, and they just say, hey, what do you want? And so, they're just sitting there with their utensils. It's too long for me to feed myself, but I can feed you. So there's a spirit of cooperation, a spirit of love, and they feed each other. But in hell, they starve because they're too selfish to feed each other. And see, the question is, are we in a hell marriage or a heaven marriage? See, if I could meet my own needs, I wouldn't have married you. I've got utensils strapped to my hands here, and we've got a banquet table because everything I need is in you and everything you need is in me. See, the banquet's before us. It's just all a matter of attitude. And when you're a good marriage, in a godly marriage, it's just, baby, what you want. When you're in a bad marriage, it's selfish. And I refuse to serve you until you give me what I want, so we end up at a standoff. In sex, the timing of our needs and nature differs throughout our married life. And this is something we need to understand. Men peak sexually at about 20 years old. Women peak at about 40 years old. There's a 20-year disparity between when men and women peak. And I think maybe that's just so, if we peaked at the same time, there would be like 3 or 4 lost years in there. So I think God did that just for the redemption of society. I don't know. I don't want to think about it too long. Obviously, I've thought about it some. So men are very visual. They're visually turned on sexually. Women are emotional. They're not blind physically, but much more emotional. Men can turn on instantly sexually, but women turn on gradually. And someone said in the world of sex, men are microwave ovens and women are crock pots. So men are compartmental sexually. Women are inclusive sexually. And what that means is that literally a man can have the worst day he's ever had at work, get fired. He comes home, opens the paper, Armageddon starts tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. He thinks, well, let's have sex. We've got a few hours to kill before Armageddon. Let's just go ahead and with a woman, everything in her life is a part of her sexuality. And so everything, the children, the house, the animals, her mother, everything in her life has to be right. And that's why I say to men, you have to pastor your wife to get good sex. You can't just jump in bed and expect her to turn on. Because all day long, you have to be connected to everything in her life, because her sexuality is not like yours. She's not compartmental, she's inclusive. Everything in her life is a part of her sexuality. For men, sex is a primary need, and for women, it's a secondary need. Now, some women are more sexual than their husbands. About 30% of women are more sexual than their husbands. But here's the point in this. Rarely will our needs and natures match. Rarely in marriage will you have matching libidos. You will sometimes, maybe when you're younger. But the older you get in marriage, what you realize is it's not the matching libidos or having the same need at the same time. It's attitudes. It's like this. It doesn't matter who has the higher libido. You serve each other. Doesn't matter. If the woman wants more sex, if the man wants more sex, you serve each other. It's in other words, this is the lowest common denominator theory. And that is, this is what I tell people. So in marriage, let's just say that there's one spouse that wants sex 3 times a week. Okay. And let's just say that there's another spouse that wants sex 3 times a month. Okay. And that happens. So you have one spouse that wants sex 12 times basically, and another spouse that wants sex 3 times. Well, how many times do you have sex? Okay. Well, if you have sex 3 times, that's the lowest common denominator, and it means this person's controlling the relationship. This person refuses to do something they don't feel like doing. I want sex 3 times a month, so I don't care if you want it 12, we're going to have it 3. Well, so am I saying that we should have it 12 times? Well, if this person has a real good servant heart, they would. But maybe you don't have it 12 times, maybe you have it 9 times or 7.5 times. You figure out the half. I'm doing my job up here. Y'all do your job. But when you're married to a person who's not a servant, it will always go to the level of the lowest common denominator. That's how you know you're not a servant. Because if I don't want it, I'm not going to do it. And in sex, we just simply don't have matching libidos most of the time. So the best sex in marriage is one person serving the other. And again, Hollywood fills our minds with such nonsense. That the happily ever after marriages, if you marry your soulmate, you always have the same desire at the same time and everything's always fantastic. No, a lot of good sex is just, one person serving the other. But the man, the woman, whatever it is, it's just serving. Another thing about a servant spirit is the only spirit that can guarantee ultimate sexual fulfillment. Nothing else can. You say chemistry. Chemistry is going to come and go because there's going to be, physically good times, physically bad times, hormones, stress, whatever it is. Whatever else that you're counting on, you can't count on it. But the only thing you can count on is the fact that I will serve you for the rest of my life. My commitment is to serve you. It doesn't matter if I need it. Doesn't matter. It matters that you need it, and I love you, and I will serve you. Let me tell you about the power of a servant spirit. Now, this is Jesus in John 13, and this is a very powerful example from Jesus himself. And John 13, we'll read a couple of texts. Supper being ended, the devil having already put it into the heart of Judas Iscariot, Simon's son, to betray him. Jesus, knowing that the Father had given all things into his hands, that he had come from God and was going to God, rose from supper and laid aside his garments, took a towel and girded himself. After that, he poured water into a basin and began to wash the disciples' feet and to wipe them with the towel with which he was girded. Then he came to Simon Peter, and Peter said to him, Lord, are you washing my feet? Jesus answered and said to him, what I'm doing you don't understand now, but you will know after this. Peter said to him, you shall never wash my feet. Jesus said, if I do not wash you, you have no part with me. Okay, this is going on to verse 12 now. So when he had washed their feet, taken his garments and sat down again, he said to them, do you know what I've done to you? You call me teacher and Lord, and you say, well, for so I am. If I then, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, so you also ought to do to one another's feet. For I have given you an example that you should do as I have done to you. Most assuredly I say to you, a servant is not greater than his master, nor is he who sent greater than he who sent him. If you know these things, you're blessed if you do them. So Jesus got down to wash the disciples' feet. Now, the disciples were talking about which one of them was the greatest. It's the Last Supper. Jesus is about to die. And the conversation among the disciples was, I wonder which one of us is the greatest. And Jesus gets up and gets down, starts washing their feet, and they're totally grossed out by it. Because they have a worldly view of success. And they have a worldly view of authority. In another text, Jesus said, the Gentiles lord over each other, but not so among you, because the servant is the greatest of all. The greatest marriage is a servant marriage, is where two people are serving each other in that marriage. And so there's some common fears. Sometimes when people begin to serve each other in a marriage relationship, they have fears. Now, first of all, servanthood is a superior spirit. Notice what it says here about Jesus. It says, Jesus, knowing that the Father had given all things into his hands, and that he had come from God and was going to God, rose from supper and laid aside his garments. Jesus was the most secure person in the room. Jesus knew that he had come from God, that he was going back to God, and God had put all things into his hands. Listen, insecurity and fear is two of the greatest reasons that people can't serve. Jesus was the most secure person at the table, and he just got up and started washing feet. And all the other guys were having an argument about which one of them was the greatest. You don't have that argument out of a spirit of security. You have that argument out of a spirit of insecurity. A servant spirit is a greater spirit, and it functions out of security. And a lot of times when people think about serving their spouse, these are the kind of fears that they have. And one is, if I serve them, they'll work me to death. This is what I thought about Karen when I wasn't a good husband. And I just thought, if I ever show her any weakness, she's going to work me to death. If I just went up to Karen and said, I'm your servant, just tell me what to do, it would just be the worst day of my entire life. Well, let me say this. So Jesus rebuked the man he was washing his feet. When Jesus got down and started washing Peter's feet, he did not lose his authority. He just chose where he would represent his authority from, the top or the bottom. When I'm serving you, I'm not putting myself under you in a vulnerable position. I've just made a decision. I'm going to represent myself from a place of humility, not a place of pride. I'm going to represent myself from a place of security and not a place of insecurity. Jesus did not lose his authority when he washed feet. He established his authority when he washed feet. This is how we act in this house. This is how we treat each other in this house. And Jesus said, the Gentiles lord over each other. You guys are sitting here talking about which one of you is the greatest. That's a very dangerous thing, because this is going to end up being a competition where people are going to get hurt. And that's not the way we do things in this house. Jesus said, the greatest among you is the servant of all. Did you know you can go categorically through any business in America, and the greatest business in America is the servant of all? Why are they great? Because they serve. Why do we go there? Because they serve. They're great servants. You go in there, you're going to get great service. It's the truth. The greatest is the servant of all. The greatest spouse is the servant of their spouse. And the greatest marriages in the world are two servants in love. The worst marriages in the world are two selfish people in love. And so, if I serve them, they'll work me to death. No. I don't lose my authority. I'm not going to subject myself to abuse just because I'm going to serve you. I don't lose my equality just because I'm going to serve you. I can disagree with you as I'm serving you. But I'm going to do this by faith because it's the right thing. Another thing that people think about when they think about serving their spouse, they think, if I serve them, how will I get my needs met? Okay. Let me read you a letter, and this is from a person I know very well, and they were going through a very hard time in their marriage. This is a woman, and her letter exactly describes what I'm saying in this message. And she said, Dear Jimmy, my husband has gone through a very difficult time for the past 3 years due to hurts that he has experienced from people in almost every area of life. Over a period of time, the enemy managed to pile one on top of another, causing great emotional trauma and a lot of anger. During this time, our relationship became strained, and I became the enemy, along with almost every other person in his life. Nothing I did was acceptable to him because the enemy had been so successful in inflicting deep wounds. One day, the Lord spoke to me very clearly and told me that the only open door to His Spirit was through sex. He said that I needed to be very careful to keep the door open. My husband wasn't particularly appealing to me at that time because the anger infected every word, facial expression, etc. And I was well aware of his feelings toward me. Still, the Lord's words rang in my spirit. And I knew that it was a strong warning to me, and if I were not obedient, there would be devastating consequences that could not be undone. As a result, God has done the miraculous in our lives, and He has been faithful in our marriage to go beyond restoration. I can't adequately describe the strength in our relationship. It is simply amazing. As a side note, there is still healing in other relationships that needs to take place, but I know it will. We serve a most awesome, loving God. So this is a woman here in our church, and I know her husband. I know her. I've known him for 30 years. And going through a very difficult time, she decided that she was going to redeem her husband, and the Lord told her, this is the open door. If you will serve him in this area, this is the way that you can keep the marriage alive and keep him from, disconnecting from you. And I love what she said in there about, I realized if I did the wrong thing that some things could happen that couldn't be undone. It had devastating consequences. And it's true. We need to serve each other. And sometimes it's the lifeline to our spouse. When they're drifting away, serving them and loving them, it doesn't put us at a place of vulnerability. It puts us at a place of strength. And we become God's partner to reach them and to bring them back. Here's another thing about servanthood. Servants, because of their spirit and the way they think, have a built-in sensitivity to the needs of others. Jesus was the only one at the table at the Last Supper thinking about others. Every other man at the Last Supper was thinking about himself. And Jesus got up and began to wash their feet while they were oblivious to the needs of other people. Sexual fulfillment and all met needs in a marriage are dependent on sensitivity. Now, here, let me give you 5 levels of met needs in marriage. You can kind of see, where you are in this deal. Number 5 level of needs is unmet needs. In a marriage, just needs are unmet. And this is 2 completely distracted and insensitive people. Okay. When your needs are just unmet, it just means you have 2 people not sensitive to each other, not serving each other. Level 4 is some met needs. And that is spouses are committed but compromised. So some of the needs are being met, some are not being met. Now, level 3 is basic needs are being met. Spouses are committed but limited. They're not doing everything they should. Level 2 are all met needs. All needs are met. Spouses are committed and sensitive. Level 1 is all needs and desires are met because I don't just want to meet your needs, I want to meet your desires. A servant doesn't want you just to be satisfied. They want you to be delighted. See, Psalm 37:4 says, delight yourself also in the Lord, and He will give you the desires of your heart. God doesn't want to just meet your needs. He wants to fulfill your desires. He wants to love us. Jesus is still a servant. Did you know that after His resurrection, He made breakfast for the disciples? They were out fishing and He cooked them breakfast. Our God is a servant. That is the nature of our God. And let me say this. He ever lives to make intercession for us, and no one is as sensitive to you as God. Our God loves to serve His family. Our God loves to love His children. He loves being a daddy. He loves loving us. And when we pray, we never get a recording. He's not distracted. When we pray, He's listening to every single syllable. And Jesus says He knows everything that you're going to pray before you pray it, and He cares. Don't you love that? Yes. Doesn't it make you secure in a relationship knowing that I've got such a loving, serving, merciful, generous God, and He doesn't just want to meet my needs, He wants to meet my desires. I don't want to meet Karen's needs. I want to meet her needs and desires. I want to be your dream maker. I want to help to bring you to your full potential in God. And I want to make every desire of your life that is a righteous desire. I want to be God's partner to help that come true. And when you have two people in love that are both serving each other and trying to meet the needs and desires of the other person, that's the way God made marriage. That's the way it works, is the servant spirit. Servant spirit, this is another truth about servanthood. Servanthood is the only spirit that experiences true emotional, spiritual, or sexual intimacy. Jesus said to Peter, listen, if I don't wash your feet, you have no part with me. In other words, here's what he's saying to him. If you do not accept this standard, Peter, we can't be in a relationship. Why? Because you can't be intimate with a selfish person. It's impossible. A servant spirit wants to join. A servant spirit is sensitive, and it's someone that you can talk to. Have you ever been in a restaurant and you have a waiter that doesn't want to wait on you? You know, they take your order and then they get on a plane and fly to Europe. And is it the most irritating thing on earth to try to communicate to someone who doesn't care? That's what Jesus is saying here. Now, Peter, if you're going to be like the Gentiles, wanting somebody to find the Lord over, and you're the boss and everybody's waiting on you, you're not going to have any part with me. But don't you love being in a restaurant and having a waiter or waitress that's attentive? And see, here's this is one of my little pet peeves. When I say to someone, thank you, and they say, no problem, I hate that. I love it when they say, my pleasure. And they come and fill your water glass or your tea glass, and you say, thank you, my pleasure. I like you. Because you like to serve. And you're not making me feel like a burden. But I don't like it when someone comes and waits on me and I say, thank you. No problem. Oh, I don't care if I'm a problem or not. You know? You can't be intimate with a person who's selfish. A servant spirit is the spirit of a person that you can experience intimacy with. Let me talk just a minute about sex in covenant. A covenant is a permanent sacrificial relationship, and the word covenant means to cut. Someone's going to bleed. And God made Adam, cut him, and made marriage. Every covenant relationship, someone's going to bleed. And in every covenant, there's a covenant seal and there's a covenant sign. When God is passionate about covenant, and when God makes relationship, he always makes a covenant seal and a covenant sign. The new covenant, Jesus said, this is the new covenant in my blood. Well, the covenant seal of the new covenant is water baptism. When we're baptized, we're sealing the deal. It is a public demonstration of a private decision that I've made. And the Bible says, he who believes and is baptized shall be saved. So it's sealing the deal. This is covenant, and I'm being baptized to seal the deal. What's the covenant sign of the new covenant? Communion. Jesus said, as often as you do this, you remember me. And so the sign means I remember. The seal means I'm in. I'm in. The sign means I'm acting in good faith. I remember that you died for me. I remember that you bled for me. I remember that you gave your body to remove the curse off my life. And every time we take communion, God releases a blessing into our lives. It's so powerful spiritually. God is very passionate about communion. Now, so what's the covenant seal of marriage? Sex. When a married couple gets married, you seal the deal with sex. Sex is the covenant seal of marriage. What's the covenant sign of marriage? Sex. When you have sex, you're not just pleasing your spouse, you're saying, I remember. I remember that I gave myself to you. I remember that I promised to love and cherish you for all the days of our lives. I remember. And I'm not just giving my body to you for you to experience pleasure. I'm giving my body to you to tell you I remember. And I'm still acting in good faith. And every time you have sex, God releases incredible blessing. Every time we have sex, there are hundreds of chemicals and hormones that are released in our bodies that cause us not only to be healthier, but also cause us to bond to one another and have stronger feelings toward one another and keep us from being attracted outside the relationship. So sex is the covenant seal and the covenant sign of marriage, and it's very, very special and very, very powerful. Let me say this another way, and that is God created sex and God loves it. God loves to see his people enjoying the special creation that he created. God created sex. The devil didn't create sex. God created sex. And he wants us to enjoy sex and marriage together. He wants us, and he made us to where we can enjoy sex in many different ways. That we can be adventurous, not in a sinful way, but to be sensual and to give each other pleasure, but to let each other know, I'm committed and my body is your body. By the way, 1 Corinthians 7 says, when we get married, our body no longer belongs to us, but it belongs to our spouse. For the sake of making sure that our needs get met. And that's not a license for abuse, it's a license for use. We never withdraw our bodies. We never use our body as a weapon or a bargaining chip. We never use it to punish or anything. This is your body. And I will serve you with this body for the rest of our married lives. And that's a very, very powerful thing. Let me end this message by talking just kind of to men and women just a minute about the area of sex to make sure that you enjoy it to its fullest. And men say, I want to serve my wife sexually. Be sensitive to every problem and stress in her life because, again, she's inclusive. You need to understand she's not like you. And if you just think you can jump in bed and after ignoring her all day or being busy or whatever, and you're going to have great sex, it normally will not happen because she needs you to be connected with all of her life all day long. Be sensitive to her different nature. The number one need that your wife has is security. Then open and honest communication. The more you talk to your wife, the more sexual she'll become. And I mean open, patient, honest communication. Communication is as important to your wife as sex is to you. And so, I've said, doesn't matter if you want it or not, doesn't matter if you need it or not, you serve your spouse. And here's what I say to men, doesn't matter if you want it or not about communication. Doesn't matter if you want to talk. Doesn't matter if you need to talk. It matters that she needs it. And you talk. And the more you open up and connect to her emotionally, the more sexual she becomes. She needs non-sexual affection. One of a woman's biggest needs is non-sexual affection. In leadership, she wants to be respected as an equal, but she wants you to initiate the well-being of the home. Be romantic in her language. But let me say something about romance. When you send your wife flowers and cards and you're romantic, it says this to her: you're on my heart. And I think about you when I'm not with you. And I desire you. Romance is the language of desire. When you're not romantic, it means this: I don't think about you when I'm not with you. You're not on my heart. And you're kind of a burden. And that's what women take from that. So romance outside the bedroom of pursuing your wife and being romantic to her is very, very important. Let me talk to women for just a minute. Communicate to your husband that you accept his different sexual nature as valid as God-given. Most men are more sexual than their wives. And some women reject that or they make fun of it. They won't validate it. But understand this, God gave men the desire for sex to keep them coming back to their wives. It's a magnet. God gave women the gift of sex, and God gave men the need for sex. So when your husband keeps coming back to you, that's a good thing. And when you satisfy him, let me say this to women, your husband will always be most emotionally vulnerable when he's having fun with you and after sex. You say, my husband's so closed off, he won't talk, he just, whatever. Have fun with him and have sex. And he'll open up to you. That's just how we're wired. Be creative and energetic in meeting his sexual needs and desires. One of the things that Karen and I used to do is, and this is another thing I was going to say, in being organized, you can plan sex. Karen and I used to, our language was being together, when our kids were growing up. And we would say, we're going to be together Tuesday night. Well, that meant sex. That meant Tuesday night is sex night. And and we planned accordingly. I wanted her to rest all day and I love to watch y'all being nervous. I love it. That's just kind of a cruel thing. But here's what we did. Sometimes we would say, is this your night or my night? Because when it was Karen's night, it was different. A lot of talking. If there was any sex, it was at the end of a long road. Or is this going to be my night? Because my night was different than her night. Yay, my night. And but here's the point. We both were satisfied. It wasn't all her way or all my way, but we planned it. And, you can organize. You can be planned about that. But be creative. And it doesn't mean that, you just always have to be just doing something new and all that stuff. But it means there's an attitude there that just says, you're not a burden. This is not something I have to do. In other words, your husband says, well, thank you for sex. No problem. Call me if she does that. Okay. My pleasure. I love to serve you. It changes everything.